Yo Carmelita, your favorite tarot reader and astrologer. And welcome to my first podcast where I explore the intersections of astrology and tarot with the current events of the world. I am a professional tarot reader and astrologer, and this podcast dives deep into astrological and tarot influences affecting our society and politics and culture. Each episode will feature insights, analysis, and predictions for upcoming events based on the cosmic alignments. And I'm going to do tarot readings every episode for the collective. I really am into educating, and that will happen with this podcast from the latest political developments to major culture shifts. This podcast offers a unique perspective on current events through the lens of astrology. I love it. It's like my favorite thing, okay? Almost kitchen talk with a spiritual aspect to it because we're adding tarot. I personally believe astrology, it is very spiritual and at the same time very scientific. So very matter of fact. In historical days, astrologists were mathematicians. So that's why I say very matter of fact. You'll learn how to tap into your own tuition and use powerful tools to navigate the ever changing landscape of the world with this podcast because I want to get deep. My Scorpio moon is not going to want to talk about surface level topics. I may have guests every now and then, depending on my mood, because I am a Cancer sun. So there is moodiness there, but also my Mars in Gemini loves change. So there's that too. But whether you're a seasoned astrologer or a tarot enthusiast or just curious about the practices and cultural events and just want to chill and sit and listen, this is all for you to be informed and understand all the current events through the lens of astrology. This podcast has something for everyone, okay? Listen to me, everyone. So share it, okay? But tune in and join this conversation. And let's get started. I want to talk about Saturn in Pisces. You probably already seen the title. You know, I'm new to this podcast world, so I'm sure it's up somewhere. But I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of this experience. I'm actually in my bedroom, so that is amazing. I love that. And I am drinking some tea. I just woke up and have an amazing face mask on. Love my face mask. It's actually a Cora Organics face mask and a lip mask. And I am enjoying myself with my cup of tea and my amazing robe, my barefoot dreams robe. And I'm doing a podcast. This is amazing. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about Saturn returns. No, there is a Saturn return. I can explain that briefly. But this is for anyone new or just people who just love to talk about astrology. And let's talk about Saturn in Pisces. Like I said, my Scorpio moon likes to get deep. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I don't want to be filtered. And I feel like with a podcast, who's going to filter me? This is how I feel, okay? So let's get started. Saturn enters Pisces March 7th, 2023. We are currently in the energy of Saturn, and it leaves May 24th, 2025. But because we have retrogrades, it will retrograde in August 31st, 2025 until February 13th. That would be the end of it, 2026. Okay, so we will dip out and go into Aries and then come right back to remind us of what we're doing wrong. Okay, so let me just explain some stuff about Saturn. And it was Tuesday, March 7th at 8:34 a.m. for all those people who are very serious, Eastern Standard Time, about the right time that Saturn enter Pisces. But Saturn takes a trip around the zodiac for 29.4 years. So usually people who are around that age start to feel it. I think you kind of feel it around 27. You start to feel your Saturn return. And if you are 29 or 30, it's your first Saturn returns, right? That's a whole nother podcast. This podcast is about Saturn and Pisces. But, it is what it is. I know everyone loves that topic, and we can get deeper into that because I have experienced that, being that I'm 43, and it's not as big of a deal. I mean, life is about learning and life is about change. But, just like I said, I'm a Mars and Gemini, so I'm here for all that adaptability. I'm also born on the 5th, and that means something. People born on 5, born on the 5th. That's also about someone who's very adaptable and very changeable. So I'm here for all that. But it spends 2.5 years in each zodiac sign. So that's why you have that it will be ending May 24th, 2025, 2 years from now, but, retrograde back. Now let's talk about Saturn, which we were doing. But what is the meaning of Saturn? And Saturn is a rigid authority figure, okay? It imposes rules and structure. It's the planet about responsibilities and self-control, patience, stability, realism, okay? I'm saying realism because Pisces is complete opposite energy with that. But it's about boundaries, endings, maturity, reality check, ethic, hard work, and limits. It is a strong daddy, okay? It is major father energy, okay? And then what else do we have with Saturn? It stands for traditional, okay? Patriarchal. I hope I'm saying that right. Capitalism. And when you have all those things, people rebel. And they don't want to assimilate. They want to fight and reinnovate is what you get with this energy, because they're like, what is going on? Now, we left Saturn in Aquarius, and that was all about, well, let me get into Pisces first before I get into Aquarius, okay? But it's just about structure. And if you know anything about Aquarius, and you're like, oh, okay, if you're new to astrology and you know a little bit, but yes, okay, so this planet is about integrity and courage. And Saturn is associated also with our personal life, and I mean, not personal, our professional life and our status. It's not flexible at all. It's very cruel, and it doesn't like humor. Okay. Very pessimistic energy. It represents illness and handicaps and misfortune as well. I say as well a lot, so I was very aware that I was about to say it, but that is an as well. That was well deserved. Saturn's power is not necessarily felt in an overwhelming way. However, it's our destiny. It rules our fate and the things that we cannot escape, and the payment we must make for what we will receive. Saturn is not to be feared, but it is to look onto. You can't pass it up. You'll probably see that you achieve lasting strength and satisfaction if you are to triumph over Saturn's obstacles. And that's what makes me think of Saturn Aquarius. And we had Saturn in Aquarius during COVID. So anyone who's overcome that, and you're listening to this, so you feel like you achieved something in some kind of way. Saturn disciplines us until we learn to be disciplined ourselves. Like I said, is the daddy of the zodiac. It's the celestial taskmaster, for it teaches us the lessons we need to learn in our life. These lessons we keep for the rest of our lives. And I know I've learned so much from COVID. And guess what? I will never repeat those mistakes that I've learned from COVID. And, that's a separate podcast. I can get all into Saturn in Aquarius any day. So let me know if you're into that. Saturn affects is to delay rewards until we have earned it. Okay. And Saturn, he brought to an end all things that had a beginning. So Saturn also represents father time and death. Okay. dying. Okay. Saturn wants to know what we are doing with our lives and how we are reaching our goals. It also rules government and infrastructure and corporations and the air quote establishment. Okay. It's a classical astrology. Saturn is the greater maleficent. And again, it represents innings and generally could be some negative things to a lot of people. And Saturn, last time we had Saturn in Pisces was in 1996. We'll get into that as I continue. Okay, so let's talk about Pisces because, like I said, we're dealing with Saturn and Pisces, and we're already in this, like I said. Okay, I said that earlier, but let's talk about Pisces for all my newbies in the world of listening to this podcast. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, so Pisces usually learned all its lessons from the previous 11 zodiac signs, and Pisces desires a connection for the great unknown. Okay, it's very feminine, it's a water, and it's mutable. Pisces is flexible. It's here for change and transformation emotionally. It's very intuitive, very emotional, and psychic energy is what you get with this spirituality, and it's concerned with its own inner world. This is a sign of high vibration and inspiration. It's a vision, and it's a messiah. It's also a saboteur because it's somewhat of the junkie of the zodiac. Drugs is a big deal with Pisces energy, escapism. Pisces is also the sign that rules art. And when I say art, it's really ruling film, music, and poetry. Creativity is very Pisces energy, and it prefers with the escapism to wear a rose colored glasses. Okay, it's like, I don't want to see all of this. I want to escape because it's so in its head and it's so beyond this world. And Pisces energy is very sexual. People don't really notice that. They always think it's the Scorpio. But Pisces and spirituality, I mean, sexuality and spirituality, there is a connection there. Then you have, like I said, Pisces as a messiah, and both Jesus and Judas are symbols of Pisces, indicating that the roles of victim, villain, and messiah can be interchangeable. And up to the interpretation, I'm sure, of the subject, but you have that energy with Pisces as well. It's on the darker side, it's associated with depression. And when I say depression, I mean deep depression. Hence why we have the escapism and the substance abuse. Highest potential for transcendence is what you get, and there's a higher purpose in life. And with all that energy of going beyond this world and having a higher purpose and really going deep into spirituality, you have the possibility of having great pain and sadness. So you have escapism and fantasy. And that's a huge thing involving Pisces, I find. You also have insecurity with that energy. I was going to say as well. That was a pause. But it's also representing a never ending sea. Sea meaning SEA, ocean. Okay. The blue ocean. It is never ending. It is so, there's no limit. And there's no boundaries with Pisces, which we have the water, and you look inside, you go outside and you look at the ocean, it looks like it never ends. And that is what you have for Pisces energy. Pisces is also very compassionate. Okay, so that is Pisces pretty much explained. So, and if you hear any noise, my bed might be squeaking or whatever. I don't have a new mattress. It is what it is, you know? And my husband loves it. He thinks it's shaped around his body. That's a whole nother story. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm running off on a tangent. Anyway, but let's talk about Pisces and Saturn together, okay? So then you have this Saturn, the great planet of form, and then it's with Pisces, the ocean of undoing. And Saturn works with mechanics and order, and it has its work cut out when it's dealing with the shapeless water of Pisces, okay? And because Saturn is so tangible and it's connecting with this Pisces, Saturn looks to help us bring our dreams into reality, tangible existence, not just like you're just dreaming, because Pisces is all about the dream as well. I said as well as again. See, so that's the third time. This might be a drinking game. This is when we lay the groundwork for our manifesting and highest purpose, because now you have this strictness and this firmness and this thing that likes to touch. Saturn is very tangible, right? So they're like, wait, wake up. Put these dreams into reality. Saturn will make order from the ethers of technology, culture, pharmaceutical, and spirituality, and the withdrawals will be rough. Okay, it's more discerning about who we rely on for information and metaphysic aspects of life. Pisces is often a risk of suffering from mental health, which I don't know if I said that earlier, with the depression. And so Saturn is going to come and say, get this checked. What is going on? You're going too far. You have that energy with Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces is a perfect time to look inward, because you start to understand your motivations and your deepest hopes. You start to say things like, do I really need this in my life? What am I doing for me really? Am I really happy? Is this really what I want? You connect with that daydream of writing a book or opening a business. When the masters of rules and the final sign of the zodiac, the two are darn going to be perfect for making your dreams come into reality. This is a time to gather up all the details you imagine and plan out what you want to make happen. No more just sitting there and wishing things will happen. It's all about writing a business plan and working out a budget and taking out a loan or looking at loans. That's a whole nother Jupiter and Taurus energy, which we have now. But I'm trying to stick to the topic. When we tune into the lessons of Saturn and Pisces, it's going to teach us our path and make it very clear. The dreams are going to turn into reality. I think that's very positive for the collective. There's a lot of negative with this too, but let me just stay on the positive for now. Simply feeling like we want to say, F it all, we're about to do this, okay? We may be tempted towards self-destructive behaviors, the higher form of the escapism tendency. We will have some sort of spirituality, something non-material, the cost next to nothing that brings joy and peace into our lives. All of that is going to be with this energy. This can mean expressing creativity through dancing. Oh, yes. Because you're going to be into music more than ever with Saturn and Pisces, and singing and acting and writing and drawing and so on. That makes me think, too, that all that, because Saturn likes to limit, might be some limits with that as a collective. May not with you, but as a collective. Personally, if you are an artist or you're a writer or if anyone creative, your creativity is going to start showing some more tangible results is what you get. You're going to learn some lessons about your art and make it more physical, okay? So you're not going to just be dreaming of the art. You're going to actually produce the art and maybe even have some art shows, actually doing the dreams of how you want to achieve your artist's skills. Anything that turns off the left brain allows you to connect to your intuition and helps you connect with yourself, such as meditation and yoga. Any of those activities, shadow work and healing and tarot. All that is going to be strong with the Saturn in Pisces. The planet's end game is about helping us mature and teaching us discipline and patience, and even taking a high road, as your father would do. The sign of Pisces, on the other hand, is more about dreaming and free-flowing and associated with formless things like the collective consciousness. So we can experience tension around the subconscious being very limited, and we may set ourselves and block our own progress. So be aware of that, especially all you artists or just anyone dealing with this. Well, it's for the collective, so it's everyone. Just be aware of that, of trying to not limit yourself in your head, okay? Pisces also rules the 12th house. That's something about the natal chart for all you newbies to astrology, which deals with our subconscious and our mystical realms. So we can expect Saturn to experiment with our spiritual boundaries. Journal, Really write that down. See how this energy is affecting that. Pisces also represents a completion, which we can turn Saturn transits in Pisces into major lessons on endings. Because Pisces, I didn't mention earlier, is about endings. And Saturn is about death. So they both have some kind of ending, even though Saturn's dying is really not dying, because in the spiritual world, and Saturn is really about a transformation. Okay, so this is an interesting play on words because I know a lot of us thinks that when something is dead or dying or death, that it is completed. And it really is a transformation. And Capricorn energy, because Capricorn, Saturn is ruling Capricorn, and that represents that as well. Anyway, just briefly about Saturn return. Usually it happens when you're turning 29, and it's when your Saturn comes back to. It went through all the zodiac signs, and it came back to when you were born. It's a time to discover who you are and who you believe you are who you believe you are. Saturn wakes you up during the Saturn returns. You start to really be yourself. It's almost like a rebirth process with your limits. So you start to say, wait a minute, I don't want to go with what society is telling me to do. I don't want to go with what my father deems I should do. I want to do what I want to do. So you tend to, during the Saturn return, move or get a new job. You either go to school or quit school. You really start to think about yourself during the Saturn return. Career is a big thing during Saturn return, and also personal life, because you start to say your goals. So if you want to be a mom or married or a husband, those things start to play off for you. So that's just a brief thing of Saturn return. I should have explained that earlier for people who are thirsty to know that if you're going through that. And anyone who is Saturn in Pisces, you are having your Saturn return. Okay, so whatever the collective energy, when I was new to astrology, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't connect that. So if it's currently Saturn in Pisces, that is your Saturn in return for all the people in your natal chart who have a Saturn in Pisces. So let's talk about Saturn's history when we had Saturn in Pisces. And this helps us understand what we can look forward to with this current energy. Okay? Pisces in Saturn, I have 1935 and 1938. That was when Hitler was big. Okay? He was roaming the streets. Okay? And we had the release of Snow White because like I mentioned earlier, Saturn is about film in the film industry. And so you have major feature films with Saturn. Now, March 1964 and March 1967, we had the Vietnam War, and we had a mass anti-war protest around the world. We had civil rights, U.S. Black Panther, and the rise of the Black Panther, and Martin Luther King doing the Selma. 1965. Is Martin Luther King a Pisces? I don't remember. Malcolm X was assassinated, and LSD was made illegal in 1966. There was a flooding in December 1964, and Northern California, it lasted until 1965 of January. And floodings, it's really big. Ocean issues with Saturn returns is really big. You had Sidney Poitier, sorry. It's very disrespectful because he is a big deal. He was the first African American to win an Oscar for Best Actor for The Sound of Music. And that was during the 60s with Saturn in Pisces. Now we go all the way to 1993 to 1996, and we had another Saturn in Pisces, and that is when there were some retrogrades, but we had the violent video games. That was a big issue, and there were a lot of restrictions and controversy about video gaming. And video gaming is very escapism. So you have that because you're like, wait, you didn't say technology and video games, but you see a lot of people escaping and playing video games all day. Okay. Um, and we had the Pisces. I think Kurt Cobain was a Pisces and he committed suicide. And remember the depression energy that you have with Saturn and Pisces, or just Pisces, not Saturn and Pisces, but just Pisces energy. The movies we have is Jurassic Park, Pulp Fiction, Toy Story, Harry Potter, and The Philosopher's Stone. So not just like the first Harry Potter. Now in 1994, AIDS was becoming the leading cause of death of all Americans from the ages 25 to 44 years old. Okay, so that is about what? Sexuality. Pisces is big with sexuality, and Saturn is like, wake the F up. Okay. There are consequences to this behavior that you're doing. So these are the things that I saw that are major, big deal. Oh, the PlayStation game system was launched during this time. We had some genocides in Rwanda. What else do we have? If you just Google it, there is so much that we had. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to see if there was anything spiritual. 29 Muslims were killed before a crowd and beat to death. And that happened in around 96, 94, 96. Was it 94? Oh, 95, 95, 96. O.J. Simpson was arrested for murder and then acquitted after a long show trial. I just wanted to say that that happened. I don't know the connection of that. I bet you there's something there, but because everything's connected, okay? As above, so below. And that is just everything. Oh, here's something big. The car ferry sank in a Baltic Sea, killing 852 people. Okay? So be aware of that. And then also we have France. They were testing nuclear bombs in the Pacific Ocean. Okay? So I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny. I'm just trying to really like show you the importance of where Saturn is and why it's important for the collective. And Saturn, before that, we had Saturn in Aries, and that was where you had the consciousness of pop culture and the World Wide Web, because Aries is all about new beginnings, and that's what we're going to have after this energy of Pisces. Something is going to start over, and we're also at the end of something here, because when Pisces hits, when Saturn or any celestial being hits Pisces, there is an ending. So let's talk about the current energy, right? Let me tell you, this is where my Scorpio moon starts to hit. So let me have a sip of my tea. Mm. Sorry for the ASMR, or if you're into that, you're welcome. But this is where I want to get deep, okay? Currently, my thoughts on Saturn and Pisces is, let's talk about drugs. We have fentanyl. That's happening. It was happening, but now it's going to be big. Oh, I didn't mention Saturn in Aquarius. We just left that. That was with COVID. And Aquarius energy is all about its freedom and socializing and networking and groups. And Saturn was like, no, you can't hang out with anyone. You have to stay in your home. You can't socialize. And there were a lot of lessons that I personally learned with that. And I am not for being restricted and not socializing. So I certainly rebelled over that system. I have my personal beliefs on COVID. And I don't want to disrespect anyone who disagrees with me. At the same time, you would respect me. Okay? We are all entitled to our own opinions. That is what I respect. And also, too, I don't believe in controlling anyone, just like I don't want to be controlled. Hence my Scorpio energy, right? I personally believe my lessons from that was to really understand that the government is trying to control me. That is what I got from that. And it was an eye opener. And I really dig deep through astrology and current events. Hence why I'm doing this, because I want an awakenings culturally and as a collective. not culturally, but as a collective. So that's what got me here today. That is what my experience with Saturn and Aquarius taught me, to educate myself and really know and not walk around the world and being oblivious and just like in la la land. It's time for me to take action and be aware of what are these restrictions? Why are they putting these rules up? So Saturn is a very important planet because you start during Saturn in Aquarius, I started to see why the government is doing what it's doing. I'm like, wait a minute, Saturn. Wait a minute, Daddy. What's going on? What are your issues? Just because they're your father doesn't mean it's okay, right? Daddies have issues too. And I don't have daddy issues. So what the F is going on? So all that came from my Saturn experience in Saturn in Aquarius. The lockdown, we are naturally social beings. So why are you telling us not to socialize? What the hell is that about? Why are we not getting vitamin D? I can go on about that. That is a whole different podcast. But let's go back to Saturn in Pisces. So from learning that, now we're learning new things. We're now learning Pisces energy. And now we need to understand escapism, right? During Saturn in Aquarius, and I find that Aquarius energy is all about the drugs, okay? They love the drugs and they love to experiment. They're like, I don't want any rules. And we had one things that were allowed to be open in California was dispensaries for weed. And now for Pisces, I wonder what that's going to look like. So either we're going to have people who two extremes could happen. One, they could say everyone who was arrested for weed must not be arrested, and let's go deep into escapism. Let's not just play video games, but let's play video games and be high all day. The government might be saying they might be open to that. They might be really like, this is what the people want. So let's really push it. Let's let them escape. There's the opioid crisis, and we might have major escapism through video games and drugs. And the fentanyl, that's going to be bigger than ever. And let's see if the government limits it or pushes it, because Saturn represents the government. So let's see what they're doing, okay? And let's see what those sneaky BIs are up to with that. Then also to consuming and mindless scrolling on the internet. Either there's going to be an awareness of it, that you are just deep diving into the internet and just sitting there all day, or there's going to be an energy of like, wait a minute, we need to control this. We can't have people on the internet all day, because that is a form of escapism when you are just mindlessly scrolling through the tickety talk. And we see that already happening. They're trying to shut down TikTok. And there may be not for the reasons that you think, but it does help escapism, because people can be on TikTok all day, and that's a whole thing about the short-term attention span with that. So be aware of that, and I find as a woman in LA, shopping could be an escapism too. So that gets more with Venus and Taurus energy, but be aware of that. Just be aware really about your mindless behaviors, okay? Whether that's shopping, scrolling, weed, drugs, and video games, or just watching Netflix all day. Whatever your choice of escapism is, watch it during the Saturn return. Remember, I said during the Saturn return, during Saturn and Pisces. And remember what I said, Pisces is really about deep depression. So you want to have a fine line on your escapism. Prioritize your mental health, okay? So if you need to seek therapy, if you need to do your astrology, if you need to do tarot, or if you need any type of just self-care, this is the time to do it, okay? Next, water. And let's talk about water. How is this going to be affected? First, we'll say the nice thing. The Little Mermaid. Of course, remember Pisces with film. So we have The Little Mermaid, and that's going to come out. that's going to be a big deal. Okay. It's predicted to domestic total predictions is 400 million. International total predictions is 600 million. It's supposed to be number 2 of 2023 movies. Okay. I didn't look up what number 1, but it's supposed to be ranked number 2. And then you have, remember, Sidney Poitier was the first African American to win an Oscar, and now you have an African American playing the Little Mermaid. Now, whether you agree with that or not, I'm not here for that. I respect everyone's opinion. There is a side of like, why are you creating why are you repeating something and changing a character from the redhead Caucasian or white girl to a black woman? And why can't she have her own unique story? I understand both sides. I definitely understand the side of you want to see yourself in a picture, and you want to be represented in a picture, and also understand that it's a classic, so why are you effing it up? I understand both sides, so I'm neither here or there. I will be watching the movie, though. I'm here for it. And I do have, my oldest grew up on Little Mermaid, and she did look up to this white girl, and she is not white. My daughter is actually African American and African. So she is definitely on the darker side. She liked the Little Mermaid, and she loves that there is a black girl playing the Little Mermaid. She's still light skinned, so there's that. I think you can just love it all. I understand race is very visible. You can see it, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be the end all be all. That is my personal opinion. In some cases, it is the end all be all. But that is what you have for the ocean. And also, to be aware of ocean energy. There is crystals you can wear. I think it's aventurine. That is dealing with the ocean. So if you're in Saturn, Pisces, and you're dealing with the ocean, take a crystal. It will protect you. I believe in it. And if you believe in it, you will attract that energy. So go ahead and think positive thoughts. Now we have the oil spills. And with the water, we have oil spills and ocean mining. I think the ocean mining is going to be a big deal. With oil spills, there will be, I think it's always an issue, and might be bigger. Ocean mining might be a bigger thing too. Let's see if we hear about it with the any of these political campaigns. But ocean mining is supposed to be like getting some minerals that are in a deep ocean, and there may be some restrictions on that or some fight back against it. And they may be trying to say that it's about the planet and the environment and the sea animals, and you might have some arguments on the other side. I mean, I think that's already a big deal, but let's see if it becomes even bigger. And let's see natural disasters will happen with the ocean, I think, because we also are dealing with Jupiter and Taurus. So we have Jupiter and Taurus, and we have Saturn and Pisces. So let's see all of the flooding and water issues dealing with the ocean. Maybe a tsunami could happen with this energy. So let's see that. Now, spirituality. The cultures of toxic wellness and spirituality and manifesting will be put under review. All of those fake spiritual TikTokers and all those like astrologers and tarot readers who are on TikTok faking it, okay? That might be a kibosh, or there may be some self-awareness with that. Just look into that. There may be some limitations on spirituality too, or you may be extremely spiritual and really connecting into a spirituality that's more occult than ever. Traditional spirituality, that would be interesting. I think that's more religion, so that deals more with Jupiter, and that deals more with the ninth house. Sorry, I don't want to edit this, so there is a cough there. Let's see if I edit. I don't know. I'm not doing that. So there may be something there with that. And but let's see, I think more about the internet and spirituality, because you could be escaping. I see the escapism with YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and then also hitting the spirituality aspect. And beware of the fake ones. Beware of the false energy, okay, with spirituality. So there may be some restrictions there. That's what I see. Or you might be more tuned into the spirituality. I see the more restrictions parts. But let's see what happens when you have this energy. Sex. Yeah, I said it. Sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Now, sex. Hmm. I think you have film industry and sex, right? You have film and sex, that's porn. Okay, so let's see what that's going to be. What energy is there going to be? Some restrictions, maybe age restrictions, maybe restricted in certain states to even watch it. Let's see. I'm not really thinking of the online services as much as the film industry. So something with filming it. But Pisces, like I said, it's very sexual energy. So let's see some restrictions with the film industry. Some type of laws or rules regarding that will be happening. And hopefully it will be for the safety of all of us. Okay. Or you can have the complete opposite. I think there's going to be restrictions on it. Okay. What can we do? Sounds pretty scary. What can you do? You can look at your big three or your six personal planets that fall in Pisces in your natal chart and see what they rule over, what area they rule over. And that would be something you need to work harder on. And you have to be more organized and structured with that in that department. Okay. Learn valuable lessons that will boost your personal growth and maturity when it comes to your Pisces energy. Now, if it's empty, look and see where your Saturn return, not your Saturn return, look and see where your Saturn is and focus on that energy with the Pisces, okay? And see what that is. So if Saturn's in your 10th house, then it's going to be something with career, okay? If Saturn is in your 7th house, then it's going to be something about your personal relationships. So look into all that. And yes, that is what I have. I want to do a tarot reading for everyone who's here. Thank you for being here. And what we can do for Pisces. I have my tarot cards here and I have the African tarot. Ooh. And if you heard that, a card just fell out. So let's see. Ooh, we have the Two of Wands. I was about to hold it up because I have a YouTube channel. I'm so used to holding it up when I'm talking to no one. But talking to you. But the Two of Wands is about gathering information. So gather your information. Be very passionate when gathering your information and really learn as much as you can. Be very passionate. Also, Two of Wands is about creativity. So you could be creative with someone when you're dealing with two. You're also dealing with relationship, creative with God, passionate about God, having faith with God. You have that duality with two. And at the same time, gather information. So don't fall into the false prophets. Be aware of the drug industry. Be aware of escapism. Gather all your information regarding that energy. Okay, so I hope that was a lesson for everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed my first podcast on Saturn and Pisces. If you have any questions about tarot, astrology, Saturn and Pisces, please let me know. Hit me up. If there's anything you want me to do next, what big transit do you want me to discuss next? I am here for it, okay? It can also be about tarot, astrology. I do want to do current events, and I also want to do celebrity gossip. More importantly, it has to be connected with astrology and tarot because that is what I'm here. Give me some feedback. I am here for the criticism, but it has to be beneficial. I have to have some growth to it. I don't need to hear, well, don't cough. I don't need to hear, well, that's stupid. That doesn't work with me, okay? I would shut that down. My Cancer sun would just delete. Okay. Anyway, so I hope you understand the history of Saturn and Pisces, how it may affect us now, Saturn and Pisces energy as a whole. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe. Please share this podcast and go ahead and check out my website. And it's linked somewhere, I'm sure. stan.store.Danielle Carmelita is the website. And yes, I'll see you guys. Well, I won't see you guys. I will hear you guys. And hopefully you will hear me because I'm not hearing you guys. I will see you at the next podcast. Bye.